Let me start with a question. Have you ever felt like life was speaking to you, like the universe or something greater was trying to get your attention? It's subtle sometimes. It's not written on billboards or blasted through speakers. It's quiet. It's personal. It's a secret message. God has a way of whispering to us in the moments we least expect. When we're at our lowest, feeling lost, or even when we think we've got it all together, He's speaking. But here's the thing, we have to learn to listen. Now, I'm not talking about listening with just your ears. Oh no, I mean with your heart, your soul, with the deepest parts of who you are. Because God's secret messages aren't delivered in obvious ways. They're tucked into the smile of a stranger, the words of a loved one, or the stillness of the night when you're alone with your thoughts. Let me tell you this, His messages are not random. They're deliberate. They're designed to guide you, to challenge you, to comfort you. But we miss them. Why? Because we're too busy, too distracted. We're caught up chasing things that don't fill the void. We're scrolling, running, grinding, but not listening. You see, God doesn't always show up with a neon sign. Sometimes His voice is the quiet conviction that tells you to keep going when the world says stop. Sometimes it's the nudge that tells you to turn left when everything else tells you to go right. It's that little feeling in your gut that you can't shake that's Him delivering His message just for you. But here's the kicker, God's secret messages aren't just for comfort. They're a call to action. When you hear them, when you feel them, you've got to move, you've got to act. He's not just giving you direction to keep you busy, He's pointing you toward purpose. Let me tell you this, the dreams you have, the goals you've set, the gifts you've been given, they're not accidents. They're part of His secret plan for your life. And when you tune into His voice, when you lean into His guidance, you're stepping into something far greater than yourself. But don't be fooled, following His message won't always be easy. Oh no, it'll stretch you, it'll push you. It might even break you a little. But that's where the growth happens. That's where the transformation begins. God's messages are subtle and personal, requiring attentive listening to uncover their depth and significance. They are not the kind of messages that announce themselves with fanfare or loud proclamations, but rather they arrive quietly, almost imperceptibly, often in moments we least expect. Their subtlety is not a sign of unimportance. In fact, it is quite the opposite. It is because they are so profound and deeply connected to our lives that they are delivered in ways that require us to pause, reflect, and truly listen. God's messages are tailored to each individual, speaking to the unique circumstances, struggles, and aspirations that define our journeys. The personal nature of these messages is a testament to God's intimate knowledge of who we are. He knows every facet of our being, our thoughts, fears, dreams, and desires, and His messages are crafted with this understanding. What might seem like a simple coincidence or a fleeting thought could, in fact, be His way of speaking directly to us. But recognizing these moments requires a certain stillness, a willingness to quiet the noise of the world and tune into the whispers of the divine. In a world that thrives on constant stimulation and noise, the subtleness of God's messages can easily be overlooked. We are often so caught up in the busyness of life, in our schedules, ambitions, and distractions, that we fail to notice the gentle ways in which He is reaching out to us. His messages do not compete for our attention. They do not shout over the clamor of our daily lives. Instead, they wait patiently for us to slow down, to create space for reflection and connection. It is in these moments of stillness, of shrillness, that we become attuned to the subtle ways God communicates. Listening attentively to God's messages requires more than just hearing. It involves an active engagement of the heart, mind, and soul. It means being present, fully aware, and open to the possibility that He is speaking to us in ways we might not expect. This kind of listening is not passive. It is a deliberate act of seeking and receiving. It is about paying attention to the small details, the gentle nudges, and the quiet convictions that often carry the weight of His voice. God's messages often come through everyday experiences, moments that might seem ordinary but are imbued with extraordinary meaning. A kind word from a stranger, a sudden sense of peace in a challenging situation, or a moment of clarity during prayer, these are just a few examples of how He speaks to us. These messages are deeply personal, meant for us and us alone, and they resonate in ways that are uniquely meaningful to our individual journeys. One of the most profound aspects of God's messages is their ability to meet us where we are. Whether we are in a season of joy, struggle, doubt, or growth, His messages are designed to reach us in the context of our current circumstances. They provide guidance when we are uncertain, encouragement when we are weary, and affirmation when we are on the right path. This personal touch is a reflection of His deep care and involvement in our lives. To truly listen to God's messages, we must cultivate a posture of humility and openness. This means acknowledging that we do not have all the answers and being willing to receive His wisdom, even when it challenges our understanding or desires. It requires a willingness to let go of our own agendas and to trust that His plans for us are far greater than anything we could imagine. This kind of listening is an act of surrender, a recognition that His voice carries the guidance and truth we need to navigate our lives. God often speaks through the people around us, using their words, actions, and presence to deliver His messages. A friend's timely advice, a mentor's encouragement, or even the loving correction of a family member can all be channels through which He communicates. These interactions remind us that we are part of a larger community, that we are not alone in our journeys, and that God often works through others to bring His messages to life. Nature, too, is a powerful conduit for God's messages. The beauty of a sunrise, the stillness of a forest, or the vastness of the ocean can all serve as reminders of His presence and power. These moments of connection with the natural world can awaken a sense of awe and gratitude, helping us to feel His nearness and to recognize His hand in all things. They invite us to pause, to reflect, and to listen more deeply to the truths He is revealing. God's messages are often accompanied by a sense of peace, a feeling of alignment that transcends understanding. This peace is not necessarily tied to external circumstances. It can exist even in the midst of uncertainty or difficulty. It is a reassurance that we are not alone, that we are held and guided by a love that is steadfast and unchanging. This peace is one of the hallmarks of His voice, a gentle confirmation that we are on the right path. Listening attentively to God's messages also requires patience. His timing is perfect, but it does not always align with our own expectations or desires. There are moments when we might feel that His voice is distant or that His messages are unclear. In these times, it is important to trust that He is still speaking, that His guidance will come in the right moment and in the right way. This patience is an act of faith, a commitment to remain open and receptive even when the answers we seek are not immediately apparent. God's messages are often an invitation to deeper relationship and transformation. They call us to step out in faith, to embrace new opportunities, or to let go of what no longer serves us. These messages challenge us to grow, to align more fully with His will, and to become the people we are created to be. They remind us of our purpose and the unique role we have in His greater plan. Through His subtle and personal messages, God reminds us of His constant presence in our lives. He is not distant or detached. He is actively engaged, speaking to us in ways that are intimate and meaningful. These messages are a reflection of His love, a testament to His desire for relationship and connection. As we learn to listen more attentively, we begin to recognize His voice more clearly and to respond with greater trust and obedience. Listening to God's subtle messages is a journey, one that requires ongoing practice and intentionality. It is about cultivating a deeper awareness of His presence, seeking Him in the everyday moments, and remaining open to the ways He is guiding, encouraging, and shaping us. It is a practice that deepens our faith, strengthens our relationship with Him, and helps us to live more fully in alignment with His will. Through this listening, we come to understand the profound truth that His messages are always there, waiting for us to notice and embrace them. Listening with your heart and soul is an art, a discipline, and a spiritual practice that requires intention and humility. It goes beyond the surface level of simply hearing sounds or words and dives into the depths of understanding, feeling, and connecting. To listen with your heart and soul means to be fully present, to tune in to the whispers of the divine, and to align yourself with the deeper truths that surround you. It's not something that comes naturally in a world filled with noise and distractions. It is a skill that must be cultivated over time with patience and dedication. When we rely solely on our ears to listen, we risk missing the nuances of what is being communicated. Words alone are often insufficient to convey the full depth of a message. A person may say they are fine, but if you listen with your heart, you might sense their pain or struggle. The soul picks up on the unspoken, the tone, the pauses, the energy behind the words. It is in these subtleties that truth often resides. This level of listening requires an openness to more than just what is immediately obvious. It demands a willingness to feel, to empathize, and to engage with the emotions and experiences of others as well as your own. Listening with your heart and soul also means silencing the internal noise that often drowns out the voice of God. Our minds are constantly racing, filled with worries, plans, and distractions. We are quick to jump to conclusions, to judge, to respond before fully understanding. But the voice of God is rarely loud or intrusive. It is gentle, patient, and often quiet. To hear it, you must quiet your own mind and create space for it to enter. This is not an easy task, especially in a world that prizes busyness and multitasking. It requires intentional effort to slow down, to breathe, and to focus on the present moment. In this state of attentiveness, you begin to notice things you might otherwise overlook. The sound of the wind rustling through the trees, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the way a stranger's smile can light up a room, all of these can carry messages if you are open to receiving them. Listening with your heart and soul allows you to perceive the beauty and meaning in the everyday, to find the sacred in the ordinary. It is a way of connecting with the world on a deeper level, of recognizing the divine presence in all things. This kind of listening is also about trust. Trust that God is speaking to you, even if you don't always understand the message right away. Trust that what you are hearing or feeling has a purpose, even if it challenges you or pushes you out of your comfort zone. It is easy to dismiss the quiet nudges of the heart, to write them off as mere coincidence or imagination. But when you choose to trust, when you choose to lean into those feelings and explore them, you often discover that they lead you to exactly where you need to be. Listening with your heart and soul is an act of surrender. It is about letting go of the need to control or dictate how things should be, and instead opening yourself up to what is. This requires vulnerability, a willingness to admit that you don't have all the answers, and a readiness to embrace the unknown. It is not always comfortable, but it is in this place of openness that true connection and understanding occur. It is also a practice of humility. To listen with your heart and soul is to acknowledge that there is wisdom greater than your own, that there are truths you have yet to discover. It is about setting aside your ego, your assumptions, and your biases to truly hear and receive what is being communicated. This humility allows you to approach life with curiosity and wonder, to remain open to learning and growth. The process of listening with your heart and soul often reveals things that are not immediately apparent. It helps you see beyond the surface to the essence of what is being communicated. This is especially important when it comes to understanding the messages of God. His guidance is often subtle, woven into the fabric of your everyday experiences. It might come through a passage in a book that resonates deeply, a conversation that shifts your perspective, or a moment of stillness that brings clarity. To recognize these moments as divine messages, you must be attuned to more than just your physical senses. This form of listening also deepens your relationships with others. When you listen with your heart, you create space for genuine connection and understanding. You become more attuned to the needs, emotions, and experiences of those around you. This fosters empathy, compassion, and a sense of shared humanity. It allows you to truly be present with others, to hear not just what they are saying, but what they are feeling and experiencing. This kind of listening can transform relationships, bringing a depth and authenticity that is often missing in our interactions. Listening with your heart and soul also strengthens your relationship with yourself. It helps you tune into your own inner voice, to recognize the stirrings of your own heart. In a world that constantly tells you who to be and what to do, this kind of listening is essential for staying true to yourself and your purpose. It allows you to hear the whispers of your own soul, guiding you toward what is true and meaningful for you. This practice is not about perfection. There will be times when you struggle to listen, when the noise of the world or your own doubts drown out the voice of God. That is okay. The key is to keep trying, to keep showing up and making the effort. Over time, you will find that it becomes easier, that you become more attuned to the subtle messages that are always there waiting for you to notice. Listening with your heart and soul is a journey, one that unfolds over a lifetime. It is not something you achieve once and for all, but something you continually practice and grow in. Each moment offers a new opportunity to listen, to connect, to receive. It is a path of discovery, of learning to see and hear with the eyes and ears of the soul. Through this practice, you open yourself to the infinite wisdom and love that God is constantly offering, guiding you toward a life of greater purpose and fulfillment. God's messages are deliberate, guiding, challenging, and comforting, woven into the very fabric of our lives in ways that demand attention and reverence. They are not accidental or random occurrences, nor are they scattered without purpose. Each message is intentional, crafted with precision, and aimed at drawing us closer to His will and to our highest potential. These messages appear in the patterns of our days, in the moments that catch our breath, and in the whispers of intuition that we cannot ignore. They are deliberate because they are designed to guide us through the complexities of life, to steer us toward paths of righteousness, growth, and fulfillment. When God guides, He does so with an awareness of who we are and where we are meant to go. His messages act as a compass, pointing us in the direction of our true purpose. This guidance often comes in forms we might not initially recognize: a scripture that resonates deeply, a conversation that shifts our perspective, or a series of events that seem to align perfectly to bring clarity. These moments are not coincidences. They are orchestrated with care, designed to light the way when we are unsure of our next steps. The deliberate nature of God's messages ensures that they reach us precisely when we need them, even if we don't realize it in the moment. God's guidance is not always easy to accept, especially when it challenges us. His messages often push us beyond the boundaries of our comfort zones, urging us to grow, to stretch, and to confront the parts of ourselves that need transformation. Growth rarely occurs in comfort, and God knows this. He places us in situations that test our faith, our patience, and our resilience. These challenges are not meant to harm us, but to refine us, to prepare us for the greater purpose He has in store. A message that challenges us might feel uncomfortable or even unwelcome, but it is in these moments of discomfort that we discover our strength, our character, and our dependence on Him. The challenges that come with God's messages often feel like obstacles, but they are actually opportunities. They are opportunities to learn, to trust, and to develop a deeper relationship with Him. They teach us to rely not on our own understanding, but on His wisdom and timing. When we face trials and uncertainties, it is easy to question why these difficulties are happening. Yet, it is in these moments that God's messages carry the greatest potential for growth. They call us to rise above our circumstances, to see beyond the immediate struggle, and to embrace the lessons embedded within the challenge. Even in the midst of challenges, God's messages carry a sense of comfort that is unparalleled. This comfort does not mean the absence of hardship, but the presence of peace in the midst of it. When we are weighed down by the burdens of life, His messages remind us that we are not alone. They come in the form of encouragement, reassurance, and a profound sense of His presence. A message of comfort might be as simple as a feeling of calm in a storm, a scripture that speaks directly to our hearts, or a timely reminder of His promises. These moments of comfort are deliberate, placed in our lives to sustain us and to remind us of His unchanging love and faithfulness. God's comforting messages often serve as a reminder of His sovereignty. When we feel lost or overwhelmed, He reassures us that He is in control, that He is working all things together for our good. This comfort allows us to rest in Him, to trust that even when we cannot see the full picture, He is guiding us toward what is best. His messages of comfort restore our hope, renew our strength, and remind us of the bigger story He is writing in our lives. The deliberate nature of God's messages means they are never wasted. Every word, every sign, every moment of guidance or challenge carries a purpose. Even when we fail to recognize or respond to them, these messages remain a part of our journey, waiting for us to revisit and understand them in due time. God's intentionality ensures that His messages are tailored to our unique journey, speaking to our specific needs, struggles, and aspirations. They meet us exactly where we are, yet they also call us to move forward, to grow, and to become who we are meant to be. These messages also reveal God's deep care and involvement in our lives. They are not generic or impersonal. They are crafted with an intimate understanding of who we are. This personal touch reflects his love and his desire for a relationship with us. God does not send his messages from a distance. He is actively involved in delivering them, ensuring that they reach us in ways that we can understand and respond to. This deliberate engagement demonstrates his commitment to our well-being and his desire to see us flourish. God's messages, though deliberate, often require our participation to be fully realized. He speaks, but we must choose to listen, to reflect, and to act. The guidance, challenges, and comfort he provides are invitations to step into a deeper relationship with him and a more purposeful life. These messages call us to align our hearts and minds with his will, to trust his plan, and to walk in obedience. They are not merely words to be heard, but truths to be lived out. The beauty of God's deliberate messages lies in their ability to transform us. They shape our character, deepen our faith, and draw us closer to him. They remind us of who we are and whose we are, grounding us in his truth and love. Each message, whether it guides, challenges, or comforts, is a testament to his active presence in our lives and his unrelenting desire for our good. They remind us that we are not walking this journey alone, that we are seen, known, and deeply loved. Even when we struggle to understand or accept his messages, their deliberate nature ensures that they will ultimately work for our good. God's timing and ways are perfect, even when they do not align with our own expectations. His messages are deliberate because they are part of a greater plan, one that is far beyond our comprehension, yet filled with hope, purpose, and eternal significance. As we learn to trust and respond to his messages, we step into the fullness of the life he has prepared for us, discovering the depth of his love and the magnitude of his grace. Distractions often prevent us from hearing God's voice, making it essential to recognize and address the noise that fills our lives. The modern world is brimming with distractions, some subtle and some overt, that compete for our attention. These distractions can be external, like the constant hum of technology, the demands of work, and the pressures of society. They can also be internal, such as the doubts, fears, and anxieties that cloud our minds. These distractions create barriers, making it difficult to discern the still, small voice of God that often comes in moments of quiet and clarity. In the midst of the busyness and chaos of life, it is easy to become consumed by the demands of the day. Emails, notifications, meetings, and deadlines all demand immediate attention, pulling our focus in countless directions. The constant connectivity of technology ensures that we are rarely without something to occupy our minds, leaving little room for reflection or stillness. This relentless pace can numb our awareness, drowning out the subtle ways God seeks to speak to us. Without intentional effort, we risk becoming so preoccupied with the urgent that we miss the truly important. God's voice is often quiet, subtle, and requires a certain level of attentiveness to perceive. It is not typically loud or forceful, competing with the noise of the world. Instead, it invites us into stillness and presence, asking us to pause and listen. When our lives are filled with distractions, this kind of attentiveness becomes increasingly difficult. We may find ourselves moving through life on autopilot, consumed by the next task or obligation, leaving little space for the sacred. This constant movement can create a sense of disconnection, not only from God, but also from ourselves and others. Internal distractions can be just as potent as external ones, often taking the form of doubts, worries, and negative self-talk. These internal voices can drown out God's assurances, causing us to question his presence and guidance. When our minds are preoccupied with fear or insecurity, it becomes challenging to trust in his promises or recognize his messages. The internal noise of comparison, regret, or self-doubt can create a barrier between us and the divine, making it difficult to hear the voice of truth and love that God offers. Another layer of distraction comes from the culture of constant achievement and productivity that permeates modern life. We are often taught to measure our worth by how much we accomplish, leading to a relentless pursuit of success, recognition, and validation. This focus on doing rather than being can distance us from the stillness required to hear God's voice. When our minds are consumed with to-do lists and future goals, we may overlook the quiet guidance and wisdom that come from living in the present moment. Distractions can also take the form of entertainment and escapism. While there is nothing inherently wrong with enjoying life's pleasures, an over-reliance on distractions like binge watching, social media scrolling, or constant stimulation can leave us spiritually depleted. These activities can serve as temporary escapes from life's challenges, but they often prevent us from confronting deeper truths or seeking God's presence. Instead of turning to Him for peace and guidance, we may find ourselves seeking solace in things that provide only fleeting satisfaction. Even good things can become distractions when they are out of balance. Our relationships, responsibilities, and hobbies, while important, can sometimes pull our attention away from God if we allow them to take precedence over our spiritual connection. These distractions are not inherently bad. In fact, they are often gifts from God. However, when we place them above our relationship with Him, they can hinder our ability to hear His voice and follow His guidance. To address these distractions, it is crucial to create intentional moments of stillness and quiet in our lives. This requires a deliberate effort to step away from the noise, to unplug from technology, and to carve out time for reflection and prayer. In these moments of quiet, we can begin to tune into the subtle ways God communicates with us. It is in the stillness that we often find clarity, peace, and a renewed sense of His presence. This practice is not always easy in a world that values constant activity, but it is essential for cultivating a deeper connection with God. Cultivating mindfulness is another powerful tool for overcoming distractions and attuning ourselves to God's voice. Mindfulness involves being fully present in the moment, noticing our thoughts, feelings, and surroundings without judgment. This practice helps us to become more aware of the distractions that pull us away from God and to gently redirect our focus back to Him. By developing a habit of mindfulness, we can learn to recognize His presence in the ordinary moments of our day, finding sacredness in the mundane. Prayer and meditation are also vital practices for overcoming distractions and deepening our ability to hear God's voice. Through prayer, we open our hearts to Him, sharing our thoughts, fears, and desires while also listening for His guidance. Meditation allows us to quiet our minds, creating space for His voice to emerge amidst the noise. These practices help us to develop a sense of spiritual discipline, teaching us to prioritize our relationship with God above the distractions of the world. Community can also play a significant role in helping us overcome distractions and remain attuned to God's voice. Surrounding ourselves with others who share our faith and values provides encouragement, accountability, and a sense of belonging. Together, we can remind one another of the importance of seeking God amidst life's challenges and distractions, creating a shared space for spiritual growth and reflection. Ultimately, overcoming distractions requires a shift in perspective, a recognition that our time and attention are valuable and should be directed toward what truly matters. It is about prioritizing our relationship with God, seeking His presence in all things, and being intentional about the ways we spend our time and energy. This shift does not mean eliminating all distractions from our lives, as this is neither practical nor necessary. Rather, it is about finding balance and ensuring that our focus remains on the one who guides, sustains, and loves us unconditionally. The process of addressing distractions is ongoing, as new challenges and demands will always arise. However, by cultivating habits of stillness, mindfulness, and prayer, we can develop a greater awareness of God's voice and presence in our lives. These practices help us to navigate the noise and busyness of the world with a sense of purpose and clarity, enabling us to remain grounded in His truth. As we learn to quiet the distractions and attune ourselves to His guidance, we discover a deeper sense of peace, direction, and fulfillment in our journey of faith. God's messages often require faith and trust to understand, as they may not always align with our immediate expectations or desires. They can come in forms that challenge our perspective, test our patience, or lead us down paths we might not have chosen for ourselves. This is because God's wisdom transcends human understanding. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. What He communicates to us may not always make sense in the moment, but it carries a divine purpose that unfolds in His perfect timing. Trusting in this process requires a surrender of control, a willingness to let go of our preconceived notions and to embrace His guidance, even when it feels uncertain or unfamiliar. Faith is the foundation of this trust. a belief in God's goodness and sovereignty that sustains us when his messages seem unclear or difficult to accept. Faith allows us to move forward despite not having all the answers, to step out in obedience even when the path ahead is shrouded in mystery. It is a conviction that God is working all things together for our good, even in the midst of challenges or setbacks. This faith is not passive, it is active and dynamic, requiring us to engage with his messages, to seek his presence, and to trust his promises. When God speaks, his messages are often tailored to guide us toward growth, transformation, and a deeper relationship with him. However, the journey to understanding these messages can be fraught with uncertainty and resistance. We may question why he is leading us in a particular direction or why his answers to our prayers seem delayed. In these moments, trust becomes essential. It is the anchor that keeps us grounded, reminding us that his timing is perfect and that his plans for us are far greater than anything we could envision. Trusting in God's messages also means accepting that his perspective is infinite while ours is limited. We see only a small part of the picture while he sees the entire masterpiece. This disparity can create tension as our human tendency is to rely on what we know and understand. But faith calls us to relinquish this reliance, to place our confidence in the one who knows all things and whose love for us is boundless. It is an act of humility, a recognition that we are not in control, but that we are held by a creator who is both wise and compassionate. God's messages often challenge us to step outside of our comfort zones, to take risks, and to embrace the unknown. These moments require a deep trust in his provision and protection, as they often lead us into situations where our own abilities or resources are insufficient. When we trust in him, we open ourselves to the possibility of experiencing his power and faithfulness in ways that surpass our expectations. We learn that his grace is sufficient, that his strength is made perfect in our weakness, and that he is always with us, even in the most uncertain of circumstances. Faith and trust are not always easy to cultivate, especially when life feels unpredictable or overwhelming. Doubts may creep in and fears may threaten to derail our confidence in God's plan. In these moments, it is helpful to remember the ways he has been faithful in the past, to recount the times when his messages have guided, comforted, or provided clarity. These memories serve as reminders of his unchanging character and his unwavering commitment to our well-being. They reinforce the truth that he is trustworthy even when our current circumstances suggest otherwise. Trusting in God's messages also involves a willingness to wait, to embrace the process of patience and perseverance. His timing is not always aligned with our desires, and the answers we seek may take longer to unfold than we anticipate. This waiting can be challenging, as it often feels like an invitation to uncertainty. Yet it is in the waiting that our faith is refined, our character is shaped, and our relationship with him is deepened. The process of waiting teaches us to rely on him, to find peace in his presence, and to trust that his timing is always for our ultimate good. Sometimes God's messages come in ways that are unexpected or even counterintuitive. They may challenge our logic or defy conventional wisdom, leading us to question their validity or relevance. In these moments, faith becomes a choice, a decision to believe that his ways are higher and that his plans are for our best, even when they don't align with our human understanding. This kind of trust requires courage, a willingness to step out in faith despite not fully comprehending the outcome. It is a leap into the unknown, grounded in the assurance that God is guiding and protecting us every step of the way. God's messages often carry an element of mystery, a sense that there is more to be revealed as we continue to walk in faith. This mystery is not meant to frustrate us, but to draw us closer to him, to invite us into a deeper relationship where trust and dependence are cultivated. It reminds us that our journey with God is not about having all the answers, but about walking in partnership with him, trusting that he is leading us toward his purposes. This trust is an act of worship, a declaration of our confidence in his goodness and sovereignty. One of the most beautiful aspects of trusting in God's messages is the peace that accompanies it. This peace is not dependent on our circumstances or the clarity of his guidance. It is a gift that comes from knowing we are held in his hands. When we trust in him, we experience a sense of security and assurance that transcends understanding. This peace allows us to navigate life's uncertainties with a calm and steady heart, knowing that we are never alone and that He is always working on our behalf. Trusting in God's messages also requires vulnerability, a willingness to be honest about our fears, doubts, and uncertainties. It means coming before Him with an open heart, seeking His guidance and being willing to follow wherever He leads. This vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a demonstration of our dependence on Him. It is an acknowledgement that we cannot navigate life's challenges on our own, that we need His wisdom, strength, and presence to guide us. As we grow in our ability to trust and understand God's messages, we begin to see how they align with His character and purposes. We recognize that His guidance is always rooted in love, that His challenges are meant for our growth, and that His timing is perfect. This understanding deepens our faith, strengthens our relationship with Him, and equips us to face life's uncertainties with confidence and hope. Faith and trust are ongoing journeys, ones that require continual effort, reflection, and surrender. They are not static qualities, but dynamic aspects of our relationship with God, growing and evolving as we encounter new challenges and opportunities. As we learn to trust in His messages, we discover a deeper sense of peace, purpose, and fulfillment. We come to see that His ways are always for our good, that His plans are always for our benefit, and that His love is always steadfast and unchanging. God's messages often lead us to serve others, reflecting His love through our actions. Serving others is a profound expression of God's character, as it demonstrates the selflessness and compassion that define His nature. When we heed His messages, they often call us to look beyond ourselves, to extend kindness, and to meet the needs of those around us. This call to service is not just about fulfilling a duty, it is about embodying the love that God has poured into our lives and sharing it with others in meaningful ways. Service is deeply rooted in the teachings of God, who consistently emphasizes the importance of loving our neighbors and caring for the vulnerable. His messages remind us that our lives are not meant to be lived in isolation, but in connection and relationship with others. This interconnectedness calls us to be attentive to the needs of those around us, to recognize the ways we can make a difference, and to act with intention and purpose. When we serve others, we become vessels of God's love, bringing His light into situations that may be marked by darkness, pain, or despair. Serving others requires humility, a willingness to set aside our own desires and agendas to focus on the well-being of someone else. This humility mirrors the example set by God, who constantly gives without expecting anything in return. His messages often encourage us to adopt this same posture of humility, reminding us that true greatness is found not in being served, but in serving. By embracing this mindset, we align ourselves more closely with His will and demonstrate the transformative power of His love. God's messages also guide us to recognize the specific ways we are called to serve. Each of us has been uniquely gifted with talents, resources, and opportunities that can be used to bless others. His messages help us to identify these gifts and to understand how they can be used to meet the needs of those around us. This may involve acts of kindness, such as offering a listening ear to someone who is struggling, or larger commitments, such as dedicating time and energy to a cause that aligns with His purposes. Whatever the form, service is always an expression of His love, a tangible way of reflecting His presence in the world. Service often challenges us to step outside of our comfort zones, to engage with people in situations that may feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable. God's messages encourage us to embrace these opportunities, trusting that He will equip us with the strength and wisdom needed to serve effectively. By stepping into these spaces, we not only impact the lives of others, but also grow in our own faith and character. Service stretches us, teaching us to rely on God's guidance and to recognize His presence in the midst of our efforts. One of the profound aspects of serving others is the way it transforms both the giver and the receiver. When we respond to God's call to serve, we often find that we are blessed in unexpected ways. Acts of service bring a sense of fulfillment and joy that transcends material rewards, reminding us of the deeper purpose and meaning in our lives. This joy is a reflection of God's heart, a reminder that we are living in alignment with His will. At the same time, those we serve experience the tangible impact of His love, often finding hope, encouragement, or relief in the midst of their circumstances. Service also serves as a powerful testimony of God's presence in our lives. When we respond to his messages by loving and caring for others, we become living examples of his grace and compassion. Our actions speak louder than words, demonstrating the reality of God's love in ways that resonate deeply with those who witness them. This testimony can inspire others to seek God, to open their hearts to his messages, and to begin their own journeys of faith. God's messages often remind us that service is not about grand gestures or public recognition. Instead, it is about the small, everyday acts of kindness that reflect his love in simple yet profound ways. A smile, a word of encouragement, or a helping hand can have a ripple effect, touching the lives of others in ways we may never fully understand. These small acts of service are a reflection of God's attentiveness to the details of our lives, a reminder that no act of love is too small to make a difference. Serving others also teaches us the value of empathy and compassion, qualities that are central to God's character. His messages often challenge us to see the world through the eyes of others, to understand their struggles, and to respond with grace and understanding. This empathy allows us to connect with people on a deeper level, to build relationships that are rooted in love and mutual respect. It also reminds us of our shared humanity, our common need for God's love and grace. God's messages call us to serve not out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to reflect his love. This distinction is important as it shifts our focus from what we are doing to why we are doing it. When our service is motivated by love, it becomes an act of worship, a way of honoring God and expressing our gratitude for his blessings. This mindset also helps us to serve with joy and enthusiasm, even in challenging or thankless situations. It reminds us that our service is not about us, but about him and the work he is doing through us. Service also requires perseverance, a commitment to continue serving even when it is difficult or when the results are not immediately visible. God's messages encourage us to remain faithful in our efforts, trusting that he is working through us in ways we may not fully understand. This perseverance is an expression of our faith, a declaration that we believe in his power to bring about change and transformation. It is a reminder that our efforts, no matter how small, are part of a larger plan that he is orchestrating for his glory. God's messages often reveal that service is not just about meeting physical needs, but also about addressing spiritual and emotional needs. People long to be seen, valued, and loved, and acts of service can provide a powerful affirmation of their worth. By responding to God's call to serve, we communicate his love in ways that resonate deeply with others, offering them a glimpse of his heart and his desire for a relationship. This holistic approach to service reflects the depth and breadth of his care, reminding us that his love encompasses every aspect of our lives. Serving others also cultivates a sense of gratitude and perspective in our own lives. When we respond to God's call to serve, we are often reminded of the blessings we have received and the ways he has provided for us. This gratitude inspires us to give generously, to share what we have with others, and to recognize the ways we are interconnected as members of his family. It also helps us to focus on what truly matters, to find joy and purpose in living a life that reflects his love. As we listen to God's messages and respond with acts of service, we participate in his redemptive work in the world. We become his hands and feet, bringing hope, healing, and restoration to those in need. This participation is a privilege, a reminder that we are part of a larger story that God is writing. It is an invitation to live out our faith in tangible ways, to align our actions with his will, and to reflect his glory in all that we do. Recognizing and responding to God's messages is a journey that requires openness, discernment, and a willingness to act in faith. God speaks to us in many ways through scripture, prayer, circumstances, and the quiet promptings of the Holy Spirit. Yet recognizing his messages is not always straightforward. It requires an attentive heart, one that is willing to pause and seek his voice amid the noise and busyness of life. This process is deeply personal and dynamic as God communicates uniquely to each individual, meeting them where they are and guiding them toward where he wants them to be. The first step in recognizing God's messages is cultivating a posture of openness. This involves setting aside preconceived notions of how he might speak and being receptive to the unexpected. God's messages may not always come in the ways we anticipate. They might be subtle rather than dramatic, a quiet whisper rather than a thunderous declaration. By remaining open and willing to listen, we create space for him to reveal himself in ways that are often surprising and transformative. Discernment is crucial in understanding and interpreting God's messages. Not every thought, feeling, or circumstance is a direct message from him, and it takes spiritual wisdom to differentiate his voice from other influences. Discernment involves seeking his guidance through prayer and reflection, asking for clarity and understanding as we navigate the messages we receive. It also requires aligning what we perceive with the truths found in Scripture, as God's messages will never contradict his word. This alignment serves as a safeguard, helping us to discern his voice with greater confidence and clarity. Prayer is a vital tool in the process of recognizing and responding to God's messages. Through prayer, we open our hearts to him, inviting his guidance and presence into our lives. It is in these moments of communion with God that we often gain insight and understanding as he reveals his will and direction. Prayer is not just about speaking, but also about listening, creating a space where we can attune ourselves to his voice and receive his messages with humility and gratitude. Another way to recognize God's messages is by paying attention to the circumstances of our lives. God often speaks through the events and situations we encounter, using them to guide, challenge, or encourage us. These moments may not always be immediately clear, but with time and reflection, we can begin to see his hand at work. Whether through opportunities, challenges, or seemingly random encounters, God uses the details of our lives to communicate his plans and purposes. Recognizing his messages in these circumstances requires a mindset of awareness, a willingness to see his presence in both the ordinary and the extraordinary. The quiet promptings of the Holy Spirit are another way God communicates with us. These promptings may come as a sense of peace, a nudge to take action, or a conviction to change course. They are often subtle but carry a deep sense of knowing that resonates with our spirit. Recognizing these promptings requires a sensitivity to the Holy Spirit's guidance, which is cultivated through a relationship with God and a commitment to seeking his will. By tuning into these inner promptings, we can respond to his messages with greater trust and confidence. Responding to God's messages requires more than recognition, it requires action. Faith is not just about hearing his voice, but about stepping out in obedience and trust. This may involve making difficult decisions, letting go of comfort or familiarity, or taking risks that challenge our sense of security. Responding to God's messages often calls us to move beyond our own understanding and to rely on his wisdom and provision. It is an act of surrender, a willingness to follow where he leads, even when the path is uncertain or unknown. The act of responding to God's messages is deeply transformative as it aligns our lives with his will and purposes. Each step of obedience brings us closer to him, deepening our relationship and strengthening our faith. This process is not always easy, as it often involves letting go of our own plans and trusting in his greater vision. Yet, in doing so, we experience the peace and fulfillment that come from living in alignment with his will. Responding to God's messages also involves perseverance, a commitment to remain faithful, even when the outcome is unclear or when challenges arise. There may be times when his messages seem difficult to follow or when the results of our obedience are not immediately evident. In these moments, perseverance becomes an act of faith, a declaration of our trust in his promises and our belief in his goodness. This perseverance is sustained by his grace, which empowers us to continue walking in obedience despite the obstacles we may face. God's messages often lead us to take steps that stretch us, challenging us to grow and depend on him in new ways. These moments of growth are an essential part of our journey as they refine our character and deepen our understanding of his love and faithfulness. By responding to his messages, we open ourselves to the transformative work he desires to do in and through us, allowing his light to shine more brightly in our lives. Recognizing and responding to God's messages also involves a willingness to wait on his timing. His messages may not always come with immediate clarity or resolution, And the journey of understanding them can require patience and trust. Waiting on God is not a passive act, but an active expression of faith as we seek his guidance and remain steadfast in our commitment to follow his lead. In this waiting, we learn to rely on his timing, trusting that he is working all things together for our good and his glory. Community plays a significant role in the process of recognizing and responding to God's messages. By surrounding ourselves with others who share our faith, we gain encouragement, accountability, and insight. Fellow believers can offer wisdom and perspective, helping us to discern his messages and to navigate the challenges of obedience. Community also provides a space for shared experiences, where we can learn from one another and grow together in our understanding of God's will. Recognizing and responding to God's messages is not about perfection, but about a posture of humility and willingness. It is a journey marked by grace, where we are invited to learn, grow, and draw closer to him. Along the way, there may be moments of doubt, hesitation, or missteps, but God's love remains constant, guiding us back to his truth. This journey is a testament to his patience and faithfulness, a reminder that he is always with us, leading us toward his purposes. Through the process of recognizing and responding to God's messages, we come to know him more intimately. His messages reveal his heart, his character, and his desires for our lives. They remind us of his love, his sovereignty, and his unfailing presence. As we respond to his messages, we align ourselves with his plans and purposes, experiencing the joy and fulfillment that come from living in relationship with him. This journey of recognition and response is one of continual discovery as we learn to trust in his guidance and to embrace the abundant life he offers. The entirety of God's secret message weaves together themes of faith, trust, service, and transformation, calling us into a deeper relationship with him and with those around us. It speaks to the profound reality that we are not merely individuals navigating life in isolation, but are part of a divine narrative, one where each of us is uniquely created with a purpose and equipped with the ability to impact the world. Every aspect of this journey, listening to his voice, trusting his plans, and responding with action, is an opportunity to align our lives with his will and experience the fullness of what he has designed for us. God's messages, though sometimes veiled in mystery, are always rooted in love and purpose. They require us to pause, reflect, and open our hearts to the possibility that his plans may far exceed what we could imagine for ourselves. They challenge us to move beyond our limited perspectives, to embrace his higher ways, and to walk in obedience even when the path feels uncertain. These messages are not meant to complicate our lives, but to provide clarity, direction, and hope. They are a testament to his desire for a relationship with us, a reminder that he is intimately involved in the details of our lives and is always working for our good. When we trust in God's messages, we discover the profound peace that comes from knowing we are held by a loving and sovereign creator. This trust is not blind, but is built on the foundation of his unchanging character, his faithfulness throughout history, and his promises in Scripture. Trusting him requires surrendering our fears and doubts, allowing him to guide us even when we cannot see the whole picture. It is in this surrender that we find freedom as we let go of the need to control and embrace the assurance that he is in control. Trust leads us into deeper faith, a faith that enables us to take bold steps, to persevere through challenges, and to rest in the knowledge that his plans are always for our ultimate good. God's messages often call us to action, to serve others in ways that reflect his love and compassion. This call to service is a central part of his design for humanity, as it mirrors his own selfless nature and his commitment to meeting the needs of his creation. Service is not about seeking recognition or achieving personal goals. It is about being a conduit of his grace, offering kindness, support, and hope to those in need. It is through service that we become his hands and feet, bringing light into darkness and healing into brokenness. As we respond to his call to serve, we find that we are not only blessing others, but are also being transformed ourselves, growing in empathy, humility, and a greater understanding of his heart. Faith is the foundation of our ability to recognize and respond to God's messages. It is the lens through which we see his hand at work and the anchor that holds us steady in the face of uncertainty. Faith is not static. It grows as we step out in trust, as we witness his faithfulness, and as we experience the fulfillment of his promises. It is through faith that we learn to listen for his voice, to discern his guidance, and to walk in obedience. This faith is not just for our benefit, but is meant to inspire and encourage others, demonstrating the reality of God's presence in our lives and inviting them to seek him as well. The journey of recognizing and responding to God's messages is deeply personal and unique to each individual. It requires us to be attuned to his voice, to be willing to wait on his timing, and to trust in his provision. This journey is marked by moments of clarity and moments of doubt, by steps of boldness and by times of hesitation. Yet through it all, God's love remains constant, his guidance unwavering, and his purpose is steadfast. He is patient with us, understanding our struggles and gently leading us forward. Each step we take in response to his messages brings us closer to him, deepening our relationship and enriching our lives with his presence. As we reflect on the entirety of God's secret message, we are reminded of the profound truth that he is always speaking, always guiding, and always loving us. His messages are not confined to specific moments or events, but are woven throughout every aspect of our lives. They are found in the quiet whispers of our hearts, in the wisdom of Scripture, in the circumstances we encounter, and in the relationships we build. Recognizing these messages requires a posture of openness, a commitment to seeking him, and a willingness to act in faith. Responding to them transforms us, aligning our lives with his will and allowing his light to shine through us. In responding to God's messages, we become part of his greater plan, contributing to a story that is far larger than ourselves. This story is one of redemption, restoration, and hope, a story that reflects his heart for humanity and his desire to bring us into relationship with him. Every act of trust, every step of obedience, and every moment of service contributes to this narrative, demonstrating the power of his love and the beauty of his purposes. As we align our lives with his messages, we experience the joy and fulfillment that come from living in harmony with his will. God's messages remind us that we are not alone, that we are deeply loved, and that we have a purpose. They call us to live with intentionality, to seek him in all that we do, and to reflect his love in our interactions with others. They challenge us to grow, to trust, and to step out in faith, knowing that he is with us every step of the way. They are an invitation to a life of abundance, a life that is rooted in his grace and guided by his truth. As we continue to journey through life, may we remain open to his messages, attuned to his voice, and committed to following his lead. May we find the courage to trust him, the faith to act on his guidance, and the humility to serve others with love and compassion. Let us embrace the transformative power of his messages, allowing them to shape our hearts, our actions, and our relationships. In doing so, we honor him, fulfill our purpose, and experience the fullness of his blessings. Ultimately, God's secret message is a testament to his unwavering love, his perfect wisdom, and his boundless grace. It is an invitation to know him, to walk with him, and to be part of his extraordinary plan for creation. As we listen to his voice and respond to his call, we step into the life he has designed for us, a life of faith, trust, service, and transformation. Let us carry this message in our hearts, living it out each day as a reflection of his glory and a testimony to his love. So tonight, I challenge you, no, I dare you to pause, to quiet the noise in your life long enough to hear what God's been trying to tell you all along. Because he's speaking. And if you listen closely, if you trust him fully, you'll find that his secret message isn't just a whisper in the wind, it's the roadmap to the life you were always meant to live. Thank you.